Well, once again, we come to you live. Well, maybe with some solutions to difficult and complex questions. Who knows? It all depends. But November is coming. And we know November begins the winter. Sunday is daylight savings time, I believe. And you will set your clock back 1 hour at 2 a.m. Sunday morning. Why we still do that, who knows? But it's a tradition that's maintained. Even if there's no relevancy for it to maintain. We have to think about traditions that will maintain without any relevancy to its maintenance. You know, it's difficult when individuals, large groups of people, choose to, be undiplomatic. It really doesn't lend itself to much choice for other people in the matters at hand. Now, America is in an upheaval, in a great debate. And it's not like we haven't had these debates before. We have. But the difference this time is, well, there's more advancement in the society at large. There's more technological resources available to the average person on this planet than in any other time in, well, human history. And that makes things, well, a lot more interesting. You know, two things are happening in November. We're having elections again, but not presidential elections, thank goodness. If we were on the eve of another presidential election, things would really be crazy outside. Not to say that they're not crazy now, but they would really be crazy outside. No. And select territories, states, and municipalities and jurisdictions. Elections are upcoming on November 2nd. There's a huge election in Virginia. And I wanted to take time right now to encourage citizens, if you haven't already, please go and vote in Virginia. And if you haven't early voted and you have no desire to early vote, please vote on election day, November 2nd this year. It's very important to vote now. It's literally a matter of life and death to vote. You know, in a lot of countries that is the case. It's a matter of life and death. You have people that come up and construct all types of obstacles to prevent, well, minority communities from participating in elections all across the planet. And well, in theory, it was always told to us as citizens that, well, American troops were sent to different countries overseas to, well, liberate them, to spread democracy, and to ensure that the rule of law would, well, prevail over tyrannical dictators. You know, I don't think they can sell that story to you after January 6th anymore. We saw seditionists, white supremacists, traitors to their own nation attack the United States Capitol building. Let me say it another way, more bluntly. We saw Anglo-Saxon white Christians attack the United States of America on January 6th. You can't talk about democracy anymore when you don't even believe in being democratic. There's one party in the United States of America that's currently not a democratic party. They don't have the values or principles or anything relating to democracy. And that party is the Republican Party in the United States of America. There's nothing democratic about continuing to proffer off war against your own fellow citizens. A war that you won't win, I might add. You know, these people that will come on here, you know, like Zachary, he was in Idaho, you know, the state right next door to us, that are sending their sick COVID patients to Washington State because, well, we've done a better job vaccinating our people than they have. Zachary got up at a town hall or some type of event and said, well, when do we get to use our guns? They keep stealing elections. I'm paraphrasing. They keep stealing elections. When do we get to kill these people? He's referring to these people and killing his own fellow American citizens. But he doesn't see people who disagree with him as citizens anymore. So, well, I have a solution for that too down the road. For every problem, there is generally a solution. But the solution might not be things that will go over well with a large chunk of people in this country. But we're at an inflection point in this country, like we've been before. But times have changed this time. Now, let's talk about the big lie that the presidential election, the last one, 2020, was stolen. Everybody knows that the presidential election was not stolen. No. They don't really mean to say the election was stolen. What they mean to say is that, well, the election was lost and they had no idea that they were going to lose. You see, Anglo-Saxon Christian white people think that, well, they're in the majority in this country. And in 2020, they found out that they weren't. And they lost. And they're having a hard time, well, coping with that fact. You fuckers know you lost the election. Period. End of story. Nobody stole shit. So keep lying. You've been doing that for centuries too. You're very good at it. But, well, the veneer has come off, so to speak. You know, it's a lie. The election wasn't stolen. But I get it. That's the sour green brigade that we're talking about. They always stay sour, especially when they don't get their way. Now, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, you know, the senator who fled to Mexico, of all places, during the ice freeze storm they had last year. You know, if Mexico had built the wall, they should have stopped the plane. They should have said, oh, Senor Ted Cruz is on the flight. He wanted to build a wall. So you don't get to come into our country and, well, enjoy the warm climate while your citizens freeze to death. You know, people froze to death in Texas. I wouldn't be surprised if people freeze to death this year too all over the country. They don't give a fuck about you as a citizen. You have to know, they only care about themselves. And I don't even know if they care about themselves. They're soulless. Just know that. They're always happy. Now, here's the thing. Ted Cruz thinks it's okay to go to school board meetings and, well, do the Nazi salute. He asked the Attorney General of the United States, is it protected free speech? And of course the Attorney General said yes. And that's true, it's protected free speech. But well, let's talk about free speech. You know, you have a right to, well, accost people in the society whom you don't know. It's protected because you have free speech, so you can accost people who you don't know, random people. But people also have a right to, well, grow disdain at, well, your freedom of speech. If it's, well, hate speech, or in this case, giving pleasurable accolades to a genocidal gesture. We all know that the Nazi salute was done, well, before Jewish people were exterminated in Germany. Well, we should know that. Maybe Ted Cruz doesn't know his history. Maybe, well, he should take a couple of critical race theory classes. You never know, it might help Ted. I don't think anything can help Ted. He's kind of not all there anymore. If ever was there to begin with. And you know, that's happening in different school board meetings all across the country. White supremacists are showing up, threatening, harassing, and in some cases becoming violent towards school board members, teachers, and school administrators. Now this doesn't surprise me. Whenever Anglo-Saxon Christians don't get their way, they always grow violent. You just have to study history to know that. But well, this kind of savagery is kind of not going to be tolerated in 2021. I know they think they can get away with it because of white privilege, but those days are gone too. You don't have privilege to, well, spread your toxicity and hatred. I mean, if you want to do that, you can do it indoors. There's the internet. But you cannot go outside and do that anymore. And I hear that they're trying to clean up the internet, so you might not even be able to do it on the internet very much longer. You know, there's all kinds of norms and expectations that we agree to be, well, part of the society, the at-large society, if we want to be in the public. We can't go outside and, well, just do whatever we want to do. I know people say liberty and freedom, but, well, we've made a lot of laws. And now people don't feel like they want to have to abide by certain laws because, well, if the law doesn't feel applicable to them, then they just feel they shouldn't have to abide by it. The only problem with that is you've already arrested other people for, well, disobeying the law. You didn't give them a chance to, well, choose which laws would be applicable to them for them to follow. But now you want to make that exception for white people. And that's wrong on so many levels. But that's what we're seeing happen because, well, white supremacy is the prevailing ruling system in the United States of America. It always has been, since its founding. Here's a solution. You know how everybody says that, well, undocumented people should go back to where they're from? We kind of agree. Now, there's going to be different ways in which this works out, but we kind of think that the African American community should be compensated to return back to Africa. White people should definitely go back to Europe. And well, the undocumented people, they used to control a lot of the southern parts of, well, what was commonly referred to as Turtle Island. So they can have those parts back. But the rest of the country belongs to the First Nation people, the indigenous people. Everybody else is just a colonizer, an undocumented colonizer, continuing to usurp the land that's not theirs. So that's one choice. Everybody can go back to their tribe, their original home, because people are so tribal. They should return back to their original home. I hear your parents and your great-great-grandparents and things like that. They're looking forward to you returning back home. Not so much. You see, I kind of figured it out. The reason, African Americans don't go back to Africa and Anglo-Saxon people don't go back to Europe, it's because nobody wants you fuckers anywhere. They're like, you're too crazy. You have to stay here. But the indigenous people don't want you here anymore. They're like, we've had to put up with their craziness for 400 years. So you fuckers don't really have any other place to go besides America. It's not that it's some great utopia. It's that you're stuck in hell because nobody else wants you. Now, I don't know what to tell you because you don't like listening to, my remedies and solutions. There's nothing I can tell you. But I do want to make mention of this. November. It's going to be messy. We all know that. There's so many different things happening in November. I think it would be a good idea to have, at least if the savagery is happening outside, for those of us inside, smart enough, clever enough to stay inside, we should be, privy to a great debate in November. The debate that everybody else is having, but the intellectuals, for whatever reason, they can't schedule one. So I want to send out an invitation to have, the white nationalist spokesperson, the Joseph Goebbels of our time, Tucker Carlson, debate, the Ida B. Wells of our time, the great and esteemed Nikole Jones, the author of the 1619 Project. Now, why do I say this? You see, everything in the context of America is racism. America is the most racist nation that's ever existed or formed on the planet Earth. And everyone knows that besides Americans. They've convinced themselves that they're not racist. But, let me say something about that. When you come to a country and you genocide 55 million people off the rip, that's what happened to the indigenous. 55 million of the 60 million indigenous people were completely genocided. So when you do that, that's technically your first original sin, not slavery. They teach in school that slavery is America's first sin. No, it's the genocide of the indigenous First Nations people. Let's get that right. So let's have a debate as to, what America really has been, what it tried to be, and what it still is. Because the citizenry is just going berserk out here. They don't know shit. They're having to deal with a virus that's novel and unique and, killing people at a rapid rate that they know and love. And, you might as well entertain us. You might as well either finally debate, what the thing is or what the thing isn't. White Anglo-Saxon people think that the country is great and is not racist. Everybody else that's not white Anglo-Saxon thinks that the country is racist as fuck. So there's two competing interests right there. At some point you gotta debate and tell us what it is. And you gotta have an intellectual discussion as to what it is. It's of my opinion that this nation is racist as fuck. And everybody knows it. But people want to pretend. And then they don't want to wear a mask. Can you imagine that? People that wear masks all the time and pretend that things that do exist don't exist and things that don't exist do exist, don't want to wear a mask. Just pretend you don't have to. And then you're not really wearing a mask. Because that's what you've done for 400 years. Tucker Carlson, he now claims starting November 1st, that, well, January 6th, the attack on the nation's capital, get this, was a false flag by the United States government, perpetrated by the United States government to attack the United States government. Oh my, that's a lot. Let's unpack that, because it sounds like an argument that, well, where we heard this argument from. You heard this argument from Moonwa, but not that way. Let me explain. You see, we've said that there are racists, white supremacists, in law enforcement. Law enforcement is an arm representation of the United States government. That's police departments, that's judicial judges, that's lawyers, that's attorneys. It runs the gamut, law enforcement. That's the United States military. And then there were reports that have been confirmed by independent journalists that upwards of 80% of the participants of January 6th were of law enforcement backgrounds, meaning that they were either active law enforcement or retired law enforcement. We all knew this. Tucker Carlson, you're like a day late and a dollar short. See, he's like the type of kid that, well, thinks that his homework is done. It's going to be a perfect grade. That's, well, he did it. And then when he turns it into his teacher and doesn't get the grade he expects, he's shocked. Like, how could you not give me the grade that I expected? I did this. And the teacher goes, well, the answers are somewhat correct. But, well, it's not like you didn't have the answers available to you. You see, you could have opened up the back of the book and there was an answer key. But you chose to, well, write all of these mythical questions and answers out when you have the answers really available to you. It's not like the Black Lives Matter movement hasn't been saying for nearly 2 decades that, well, there's racist people in the police departments. You know what? White people didn't care because it wasn't affecting their communities. And now that it's affecting the nation, now they care. It was a false flag inside job. Yeah, let's run all the people who have military and law enforcement experience. Let's match it up. You got the names. We know who they are. Fuck out of here with that bullshit. You know, what can I say? When you're right, you're right. In 2017, the FBI authored a report stating that, well, get this, the headline, white supremacists determined to barrel into law enforcement. This was in 2017, right as, well, you know who, the new Führer that wanted to be Adolf Hitler, but, well, was too dumb enough to be Adolf Hitler. This was right around the time he was being inaugurated. I'm sure he didn't read any reports. He was just hell-bent on, well, wanting to overturn everything that, well, the Kenyan Muslim, who he alleged was, well, not born in the United States, did during his 8 years in office. You know, he spied on my campaign. He did this, he did that for 4 fucking years. Like a petulant little child. And then you wonder why the country is a shit show outside? Please. The rot starts usually at the top and disseminates downward. And there's a lot of rot up at the top of the United States of America. Now they want to acknowledge the white supremacy as a threat to the American, well, democracy. You think having organizations around with the sworn, well, oath to, well, dismantle the country because they don't like certain policies, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, you think that, well, that wouldn't be a threat to, well, the institution and democracy of the country. Go figure. And the reason I said the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment is because that has to do with slavery. They don't believe in abolishing slavery. They still think that slavery should exist. That's all of the original intent crowd. Oh, we should follow the Constitution to the original intent and letter of the law. Yeah, we should follow the original intent of the Constitution. You know, the indigenous peoples one. That your ass should have never been in the country. Period. That was the original intent. The indigenous people actually rescued Christopher Columbus out of the river. Boy, who were those fucking nitwits? You should have left that son of a bitch in the water to drown and be eaten by whatever animal or creature wanted to consume his deceased fucking carcass. What a shame. Missed opportunities, I tell you. You know, we kind of remain neutral, except for, well, in big matters that involve the whole country. This kind of involves the whole entire nation. So, we can't really remain neutral. I know a lot of people think they can, but they can't. You gotta pick a side. Somebody funded January 6th. Somebody gave a lot of money for all of those people to be there. To, well, have hotel rooms. To have, well, communication systems. To buy equipment. To strategize and plan and organize that. That was big money. We know there's people in high society, in the United States government, and in foreign countries that funded that. Let's get their names. Because what they funded, well, was an insurrection against the country. So I hope they have dual citizenship and they can defect to whatever nation will accept them. I don't think it'll be China. I think I have a better chance of being accepted in China than they do. Enjoy the show. It's going to be a beauty. No. See, the real scaredy cats are those fuckers. Because now they know. Their days are numbered. Have you heard the defense of capitalism lately? It sounds like a 19th century defense. So long, boys. It was not nice knowing you. I hear the CCP party. They don't like scum like you. You deal with that shit, not me. You deal with it. Businessmen. No more like thieves who've been, well, propped up by the United States government to, well, be thieves against its own citizenry. Now the racketeering has come to an end. And they just don't know how to cope with it. So now, well, the allegation is that they're coming for you, the average citizen. The government is coming for you. Wait a minute, the same government that staged a false flag, that attacked itself, is now coming for its citizenry. Okay. Well, you know, I don't know how you can be a citizenry if, well, you have your own fellow citizens out stating, when do we get to start killing people? So don't try to act like we're all united here. You've got other Americans asking when do they get to start killing people. So we're not going to be all united. It's going to be, well, who knows what the fuck it's going to be. But it won't be a United States. The last time you fuckers succeeded, let's talk about that, because people don't know why you succeeded. They heard in school some bullshit, but that's not the truth. Let's actually be honest with why the South really succeeded from the Union. It was over slavery, but not in the context that you think. See, they tell you things that are simplistic and dumb. Let me tell you why. In New York, it was a free state, meaning that African Americans were free to do a lot of things that they weren't free to do in the South. Like, well, they didn't have to pick cotton until they dropped and died in the fields. So, if a slave master brought their slave to New York and then traveled back down to, well, their slave state, The slave would petition the court in America to say, well, wait a minute. I'm a free slave now. I'm a free man. Or I'm a free woman because I went to this state and their ordinance and laws stated that I was free. And this fucker brings me back down here and says I'm a slave again. Of course the South didn't like losing, well, their slave labor. So, well, they got sour like they always do and started killing people. And that's what kicked off the Civil War from 1861 to 1865. Ordinance and state laws like that. States' rights, my ass. That's really what you tell people, you racist sons of bitches? That's what you tell people? No, that's not true. See, you can lie to some people, but you can't lie to everybody. Some people know your lies. And well, yeah, we should have a debate. We should really have a debate. And well, I know you're not the type of people that like talking. You like violence. So I have a solution for that too. You know, I very rarely tell people what to do. But in times of health and safety, and that's what it is when you have to defend yourself. That's health and safety of yourself, your family, your community. There's a time and a place for everything. And it's appropriate before November to tell people, well, how to best prepare and stay healthy and safe out there. Get your hands on as many weapons as you can get. Any type of weapon, get your hands on it. Ammunition, get your hands on it. Get your hands on food and water. There's going to be shortages. There already are, well, diesel shortages in China. And they're having to ration off diesel fuel. You can't fight a war if you can't move. They're having electrical outages all across China. You can't fight a war if you can't see. Be prepared. You know it's coming here. It's bound to come to America. We're dependent on, well, the country that we hate currently. And if they have shortages over there, you really think that they're going to give things to America when you've insulted them? You know, everybody has feelings. And everybody is tribal nowadays. So people are going to want to take care of their own tribe. And I don't have a problem with that. So, everybody's kind of on their own. Don't expect the state to do anything for you. We saw what the state did to George Floyd. They literally murdered him for 9 minutes and 22 seconds. So, if you expect the state to do anything in defense of you, you're crazy at this point. The state, well, gave license to a roving white supremacist militia in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which we'll talk more about in depth in a moment, to, well, murder Black Lives Matter protesters. So don't expect the state to come to your rescue. No, we might have to, well, defend ourselves from the state and white supremacists. Because you see, the state has officers that are white supremacists, sworn and taken oaths to white supremacy. You know, how can you take an oath to the Constitution and then be part of the Proud Boys and then still serve in police departments all across America? Can somebody explain that to me? Have you looked at the oath for the Proud Boys? Have you looked at the oath for the 3%ers? Have you looked at the oath for the Patriot Prayer? Or the oath for the 3%ers? Have you read those oaths? They go against the Constitution of the United States of America. But yet they're drawing a paycheck from taxpayers, citizens in this country. Get those fuckers off the force. And if they have the names should leak. We should know who every last one of these white supremacists are, so the rest of us can defend ourselves against them, whether they have a badge or not. A badge is not going to matter when this happens. No. And your guns? You think you're the only Americans with guns? No. Fuck off. These things give me no pleasure to say, but they're necessary. We have seditionist members in the House and the Senate currently serving right now who plotted the attack on the nation's capital. So don't get mad when I say things, because, well, you have sitting members of Congress who plotted an attack on the nation's capital. I know they're trying to act all like it didn't happen. No, they're trying to whitewash that, just like they try to whitewash everything. But no, you're not going to whitewash that. You white supremacists, you Anglo-Saxon Christians, you attacked the nation's capital. We'll forever remember that. And yes, I said Anglo-Saxon white Christians, because that is who did it. American Anglo-Saxon white Christians. Because there's European Anglo-Saxon Christians that don't give a fuck about the United States. So I wanted to distinguish those people. You know, things have to be said, and things have to be done. And things will be said, and things will be done. We're done dealing with white supremacy. Neutrality season is over with. The government has shown they can't deal with the problem. You know, Canada labeled the Oath Keepers as a terrorist organization. America, under Joe Biden, you know, we vote for change, but we don't get it. And then you wonder why people are disappointed. We couldn't even get 4 weeks of paid leave, paid family leave. They stripped it out of the reconciliation bill. Even though that's why 80 million people voted Democratic. Yeah, they wanted to remove the wannabe Nazi Hitler, but they also wanted something to change in this country. Why haven't the Oath Keepers, the 3%ers, the Proud Boys, why haven't they been labeled as terrorist groups? As white supremacist militias and terrorist groups in this country? The KKK, why haven't they been designated as a terrorist group? In Canada, they are. You see, it leads me to my next point. You're going to need the weapons to maybe fight your way out of this country. You see, nobody's going to stay in a white supremacist, ethno-white state run by, well, Christian nuts and kooks and zealots. Nobody's going to stay here. So we're going to want out. And we know that you're not going to want us to leave because, well, we kind of have all the resources and the talent. You people are just fucking insane. And you couldn't govern for 2 seconds. Everybody knows that. So we're going to want out. And they're not going to want to let us out. So we're going to have to fight our way out. Canada is a good option. They have more people that, well, are fully vaccinated. And they're more sane than Americans. They have a lot of insane Americans. Not to say that there aren't sane Americans, but a lot of insane ones. And we're kind of tired of what happened last year. Where when they don't get their way, they ram cars into crowds, killing people. They go into a place that they don't live in and shoot people with AR-15s. We're kind of tired of that bullshit. So we're just going to try to leave. And if you don't let us out, well, we're going to fight our way out. All of us, millions of us, we're done. Because you've shown you can't take care of white supremacy. You've literally got Joseph Goebbels on prime time every night, spewing out bullshit. Adios. Enjoy it. And well, you know the old saying goes, in the end, it's kind of like the beginning. So, we always said the First Nation people and the indigenous people would get their land back. And we still firmly and humbly believe that they will. We never said how, though. I think it's crystal clear and evident now